Guys, this is Joe just popping in to ask if you've signed up for your free marketing consultation with MDT Marketing yet. If you haven't, head to mdtmarketing.com/edup, submit your information, get your free consultation today. Don't do it alone. Find the right partner. Welcome back, everybody. This is the EdUp Experience podcast where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again on another episode. We have, as this episode will air, we've now passed 300 episodes of the EdUp Experience. We have probably into the 310s or 320s at this point, and would have well past 100 college and university presidents interviewed. I don't know how many EdTech CEOs or founders, hint, hint on who I have with me today, but an incredible resource is the EdUp Experience. And I don't say that just because I'm a part of it, but if you actually go to our site, you can look up all of our episodes by category. We have community colleges, we have private colleges, we have public colleges, we have EdTech, we have diversity, equity, inclusion. We have all sorts of categories where you can find exactly what you want to hear. Maybe you want to hear about something in particular. Well, you can go on our website and you can submit what that topic might be. Of course, we take reviews and ratings as much as you'd like to give them to us on Apple Podcasts. And we like to occasionally bring on people, as I'm doing today, from software ed tech companies that I have direct knowledge and experience with. And I was talking to this guest here before the episode. He raised his hands and said, "Yay!" It's like an on-air testimonial I'm about to give here. But he's with me right now. His name is Andrew Grauer, and he is CEO and co-founder of Course Hero. Andrew, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, what an honor it is to have you, my friend. To say that you are busy would be an understatement of the year. It's like COVID has supercharged what's been happening at Course Heroes. Everybody's looking for online resources, and the disruption that coronavirus has created around online learning. Everybody's wondering where to go. How do I do it? Where do I get the resources? Where's the support? And hasn't Course Hero been able to be all things to all people during this time? Because it's surely reflected in your growth.
I mean, it's been an incredible year in terms of that growth and innovation. A huge number of challenges and frictions too for so many students and educators having to go immediately remote, within 1 week last spring. And so many people didn't have experience with that. So, there is huge problem, huge friction, but then huge innovation. And I think that's been incredible. And for us to be able to expand Course Hero and also what you're referencing, and Course Hero acquiring 4 different companies over the last 12 months has been quite a ride.
Oh, I bet. But tell me the story. I want to hear this story because you're 2006, right? You were a student at that time, or still in the educational process. How do you even come up with this idea of Course Hero? I mean, the brilliance around it is incredible. Where do you pull the inspiration from? How does this exist? And why can't I ever think of any of these things, right? That's the real question I want to ask you, Andrew, is what am I missing personally where I can't come up with any of these good ideas? But tell me how this happens. You're just sitting around having coffee and you're like, I'm going to start Course Hero. Like, how does this happen to people like you?
Well, you could definitely have the idea. I'm sure you have tons of ideas. I think
Andrew, come on now. Let's not get crazy. If I had a good idea, I would have put it into place already. Let me tell you. Maybe the EdUp Experience is my only half-baked idea that I had with my co-founder, Alfred Freitas. But, it's truly remarkable how you take this idea and grow. But tell me where the inspiration came from and how did it even happen?
The easiest way to think about the idea was just through empathy. We don't tend to think about being a student as a job, and it is. And the crazy thing nowadays is so many students are studying and literally working professionally. But for me, it was the luckiest and most important thing that we got right was we focused on pain points. The the friction, the stress, the desire, the anxiety of wanting to learn and getting stuck and being in class and like, I don't understand that question. I get to a homework question number 5 on problem set 6 and I'm stuck, or I'm prepping for a test or writing a paper, and all of these different feelings, and don't have access to a private tutor, or don't have access to office hours, or it's raising my hand feels stressed, and uncomfortable. Asking you, Joe, hey, will you be my study buddy? And that's awkward. It's potentially disingenuous, and it's inefficient. And it was just starting with what turned out to be such a universal pain point, and such an important, frequently occurring, stressful job to be done by not just me, but so many students. What turns out to be applicable across grade levels, across subjects, across different types of schools and different geographies, and focusing on solving for that, and making learning, making studying better, making it more accessible, making it more affordable. That problem statement and opportunity statement has actually been incredibly consistent, even if we articulate it differently over time, and we're solving for it differently over time with updated technology and solutions. The actual human need is something that we very lucky enough focused on, and passed that toothbrush test of needed by so many people. It's frequently occurring, and it's a high magnitude pain point.
Yeah, and you're right. There's so many, when you talk about students and adult students, or it doesn't matter what kind of student you're talking about. And I always say you have to define the student, but in this case, every single student is dealing with something. And how can you get them the resources? How can you get them the support to feel, to have the resources to be successful? And it's a pain point that persists throughout the entire educational journey. No matter what point you are, you need help. Nobody goes through education and just masters it 24/7. There's always somebody or something that has to help you. And in a world that is increasingly online, it makes sense that we would move online for many and most of the resources we want to support us, right?
Yeah, right. And you're reminding me of an entrepreneurship lecture series course that I took in college. And I remember these entrepreneurs would come in and they'd be successful and have created these large and complex organizations and systems with large impact. But one of the speakers really said it in a accessible way. Was, when we started, it was so simple. And it's really just a set of compounding decisions over time, simple decisions and simple actions in a certain direction that eventually, say over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it becomes something that at that point in time looks incredibly complex, and large and valuable. But then the speaker said, just do it. You just have to get started. And then when you get started, you just have to keep going. And I think for me, separate from the idea and what we were focused on and have continued to focus on, I think that resonated for me from an operating perspective and helped me to just going when there were so many things I just didn't know. And so many times we experience things that I have never dealt with before.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the Series B funding round that you went through, something like 70 million. What was the strategy there? You go raise the money. What was the vision? Obviously here we are, like a year and change later. But when you were going through that Series B funding, what was the idea? about and for? Was it expansion? Was it a coronavirus response to expand and refine the resources? Can you talk about that strategy a little bit, and then we'll talk about some of the organizations that you've acquired since then?
Yeah, it was around that was realizing that a lot of things are going to get accelerated and in the market. And what we started to realize is that there's actually so many different mission-driven, values-aligned entrepreneurs who have now been building and are really innovative ed tech companies. And for Course Hero, we realized we can't do it all ourselves. We cannot expect to build everything from scratch. And we need to be humble about that. And being able to build together on the same platform, on the same team, was the concept behind this expansion round. And how do we think about how to make learning better, studying better in different categories? And we realized that you can think about that from a subject perspective, a skills perspective, a grade level, and a geographical perspective. And that's one way to have a systems view of where to focus. And that set us up for the coming year, where we went deep into math with an amazing AI team out of Tel Aviv, Israel, who basically innovated on the TI-83 calculator. And instead of having to buy a calculator, you can just get it online or on your phone, and not just get the final answers, but be taught the steps to get to the final answer. And that was an example of going deep into just math, where Coursera is so broad across so many different topics. This is a solution that is very focused and very helpful in such an important foundational subject. And that was the beginning of then going through math and reading and writing with lit charts and CliffsNotes and Quillbot, taking us to reading, writing, and arithmetic solutions over the last 12 months, where those were examples of solutions that have been built over many, many years, in most cases, even over decades. And those are just things that I think a lot of times we underestimate how much time it takes to build something valuable. And it's not just capital. It is so much of consistent problem solving and building over months and years and years. And I think that's what's so exciting about being able to work with and then partner up and build on the same platform with mission-driven, passionate education entrepreneurs who have already taken that leap to build, have been building, have done it successfully, and then we can partner up to hopefully create better and more valuable solutions for more students and more educators, because the platform is more connected and larger together.
You know, I was so happy to see when I saw it, the acquisitions of CliffsNotes and Quillbot, because the reading and writing skills are something that students struggle with at every single level of education, right? I work for a graduate institution in California, and I'll tell you, we have graduate students that come in that still struggle to write. So, you know, and then you see what you see more and more and more is the short form writing, where you get like a LOL in your writing, and you go, wait a second, this, you can't text and write at the same time. There's this overlap and this melding of methodologies of writing, how we talk with one another through phones and texts, and then how to actually write. And universities and colleges, as we go through the system, quote unquote, that's what their expectation is. And a good expectation is that we know how to write. And acquiring those companies and giving students the tools to learn how to read and write faster, I think was and is a key foundational support component that was necessary for Course Hero to continue to provide what students need into the future. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. I think you're spot on with foundational and important and difficult subjects. And in writing, it's interesting from our learning, you know, academic writing is similar but different from creative writing, which is different from business writing, which is different from, as you just said, texting or social communication. And
I could have killed my dissertation chair when I would, you know, not my chair, my coach, and I'm going through my dissertation and I'm writing. What would have been an incredible paragraph had I put it in an email and out to my staff, and he's just crushing me on, you know, my corporate writing. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Corporate writing? You have to write academically. What the heck is that? Like, what's the difference? But you're right, it is science.
Totally. And through this learning process for us, and getting up to speed on what's possible, what's out there, and how do you solve for the writing process and the writing journey. It was interesting to just get some user research and see how some students, if they're approaching, say, a 5 to 10 page paper or a 5-paragraph essay, they're unsuccessful when they think about it as one large project. Yet the successful students think of it as a set of small chunks. And being able to break down the process from the beginning of a prompt and trying to figure out a thesis statement, potential topic sentences, potential claims and evidence to support those claims, or arguments for, arguments against, citations, all the way down to, you know, grammar checking. That process, if one can innovate to scaffold that and help through it, it not only can make us a tool incredibly powerful for productivity as professionals, but also help us in doing so write better and write faster.
I'll tell you this, and you're right. I remember the first day of my graduate degree, which was 10 years, many years after I completed an undergraduate degree, and I went back to get a graduate degree. And one of the first assignment of my first class was write a thesis statement. And the first thing I did and the first action I took is to go to Google and look up, how do you write a thesis statement? Because for the life of me, I could not remember how to do it, because we lose some of those skills that we don't use every day, which is why a company like Course Hero is so valuable, because you're caching all of this stuff forever on how to do these things, as long as colleges and universities require them, which is the fascinating part of your company. But I want to get serious with you for a minute.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said there is, I just think is the building block of learning. You know, it's asking that question, and then how do you quickly get the best possible, most accessible answer? And it's basically, learning is a string of questions and answers and explanations, from the beginning of a topic to the end of it, and then what's the next related topic. Or you could even think of a certificate program or a degree program as it's a string of questions and answers and explanations from day one to graduation day. And from that point of view, we kind of see the world moving from a search engine to answer engines to explanation engines. And on the back end, how do you map that so you can make better and better and better recommendations? And some of the mechanisms you just described is, you know, how do we unsilo this information? How do we aggregate it? How do we organize it? And then how do we disseminate it? And that gives kind of a systems view for how to innovate and how to build a platform or a library that can deliver on that individual question and answer and explanation that you put into Google, but also potentially tie that and connect them better together, because still today in the world, that's not a great experience, right? They seem to be one-off questions and answers and explanations rather than really tied together in a seamless way.
Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your audience? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience responds to? Are you spending more time building reports than listening in on what your audience wants? These are not easy questions to answer. That's why our great friends at MDT Marketing are offering a free audit of your marketing efforts. Head to www.mdtmarketing.com/edup and submit your information for your free consultation today. Look, guys, you got nothing to lose. It's free. I don't know why you wouldn't want a free audit to tell you what you're doing, whether it's effective, and how you can make some incremental changes that can make a big difference moving forward. That's www.mdtmarketing.com/edup. Well, let me ask you this. This is the part of the episode where I like to keep a guest on their toes. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. You're walking into a room, and every single time that you do, there is a song playing on the loudspeaker. It's your entrance music, a la WWF wrestling, WWE wrestling. What is the entrance music for Andrew Grauer?
The first thing that comes to mind is the theme music from Matrix.
Nice. I like that. I like that. And it says a lot it says a lot about what's happening inside your head, my friend. We get a look under the hood there and just see the green and black screen all populating itself. That's what it takes to start a company like Core Zero, I think.
Well, I think I love it. Recently just been exercising this idea of what does it look like to learn faster, learn better, and learn more, make it more accessible, almost like an app store for that learning. And you've just got that scene of downloading the information to your head and to be able to learn Kung Fu, or learn how to drive the helicopter super fast. Just those moments.
Absolutely.
It's a funny thought. It's an out there thought. It's an extreme, unrealistic thought today, but it kind of shows you what does it look like to learn more per unit time and then be able to exercise it and then eventually be able to master it in the real world.
Most people would, if they don't know you or haven't looked you up on LinkedIn, would think, oh, what was his background? Engineering or, technology? He's, sitting around. His major must have been, a psychoanalyst or something. But you have a BA in Spanish. So, that means you're a creative thinker on language arts. That says a lot about you and your thought process as well. You're not sitting in a inside the matrix. You were thinking about how to create
it. I think the world has become incredibly collaborative. To build anything, I think it's really cross-functional, and being able to recruit and align and motivate and energize a team that one person by themselves really can't do it all. I think taking disciplines from not just product management, but to engineering, to design, to analytics, to research, to marketing, to talking to real students, real educators, taking all of that and then figuring out what to do with it out of the unlimited options, that's a skill that I think is quite valuable in the world. And it's that creativity, it's that connections that can be made, the processing to get to hopefully a synthesized point of view and hypothesis, I think can move things forward. It's also something that we can still do much better in at least a lot of parts of the world. We can do better than computers. So many computers can process information faster, they can store information faster. Humans, we have the ability to connect and be creative as a comparative advantage still, and that's energizing.
Absolutely. one of the things that I want to hit on just a tad is one of the knocks on Course Hero is that, you know, there's a lot of cheating happening with students. They're trading answers or finding answers within the system. And that but there's 60,000 over, I think 60,000 faculty that are members of Course Hero, which is a little bit of I don't know what is that, oxymoron kind of, you know, is it really happening like, you know, they say, quote unquote, people who are not inside Course Hero are saying, oh yeah, their students are cheating within Course Hero. But then you have this insurmountable amount of faculty also as members of Course Hero, sharing resources, figuring out how to teach students. And you go, okay, what's really happening? So can you clarify from your view, you know, because there are a lot of so traditional or more traditional higher education outlets they'll go in the stories and say, oh yeah, this is what this is, or traditional faculty saying this is what this is. Maybe there's a lack of understanding on what Course Hero really is, and I want to give you this chance to outline that and clarify that for us.
We build Course Hero to be the best learning platform that we can to ultimately help as many students graduate confident and prepared. That's our mission and vision. And for us, it just makes so much obvious sense to build with students and educators, and building this marketplace and this community with students and tutors and educators participating and getting value and contributing value together to make a more open, democratic, interconnected platform is so powerful. In doing so, and as you're right, there's now over 70,000 verified college instructors on the platform. That's out of about 1.5 million instructors in post-secondary education in the United States on the platform, which is quite exciting, participating and sharing resources with other educators and with students. For us, that's what we build for. In doing so, that's messy, right? Democracies are messy. Open platforms and sharing is messy. And when we build for learning, I think that's so powerful to try to build a library that has the most organized and accessible resources for students and educators in a course, but across courses and across schools. In that moment, you want to make information in that job, like you were talking about searching Google for a thesis statement and what is that? You want to make that as on demand as possible. It's in the intersection of the learning and assessment that it becomes complicated for certain types of assessments. You know, if you have a closed and timed assessment for an individual, that can be at odds with a student who is choosing to cheat by going to the internet, for example, and Google, or showing up on Wikipedia or Course Hero. And in there, I think that's where we really engage. That's where we really need to listen. We learn. We speak with so many students and educators in our community, and we try to learn what's happening, what are the incentives, what can we do, what should we do, and how do we get better. Our goal is to focus as much as possible on building the best learning and teaching platform that we can, and then engage where there are abuses, and whether a student plagiarizes from a paper or is copy and pasting an answer in an assessment where they shouldn't be. We need to continue to innovate and do the best we can to figure out how to prevent that and deal with it when it does happen. And that's what we're committed to doing. And we find that the vast majority of students in their learnings and using Course Hero and other resources, their goal is to learn. Their intent is to learn.
Yeah, you know, I agree 100% with what you're saying, because I've never found a student that went to cheat somewhere individually because that was the best place to cheat. A student who is going to cheat is going to cheat. And whether that's open resources, whether it's getting a paragraph from your friend to write it because they're a better writer than you, there's abuse is not exclusive to a company. It's an intent, right? What I found through my personal use of Course Hero during my studies, especially in my doctoral program, is that there were wraparound ideas and concepts when I was looking for someone. How do I do this? Where are the resources where I can find out how to reverse engineer the statistics question? Well, yeah, could I have gone on Google and put in the question itself and have it spit me out an answer? Yes, and I did. I'm not gonna be honest. I went to Google. I was like, what the heck is the answer to this question? But then I went and found resources and how to reverse engineer it so that the next time I had the question, I didn't have to go anywhere. And so it's the wraparound of the learning services that makes the difference, and why I found Course Hero so engaging, and why I used it is because it offered me things that I needed when I needed them, that didn't give me the answer, but it pushed me toward the answer that I needed, if that makes sense, Andrew, and if you don't mind me saying so. And that was a difference maker for me, especially when I was feeling frustrated. It was like, what am I going to do here? Okay, I'm going to go to Course Hero, and I worked through the resources that you guys had and got to where I needed to get to, and that was huge. And yeah, I did it on Course Hero. And if Course Hero didn't exist, then you'd have a LinkedIn group of students collaborating, or you'd have, and you'd have a text message chat of students collaborating and sharing resources. It's going to happen somewhere. So why not have it happen on Course Hero, where you can put other ideas, concepts, and learning items around the student? Is that a testimony? I think that's kind of a testimonial, Andrew.
I love it. And so many students say similar things in from our research, and we try to put different names to it, from finding that initial answer and explanation to trying to understand the concept, or understanding, hey, how did I get from step 2 to step 3? Or can I see similar problems so I can start practicing those, so I can start to prepare for practice, and then interact again between how do I solve for this specific problem? But if I were to see a similar one, could I solve that? Because so many times, even after a lecture, you see the next problem on the problem set, and you don't get how to solve it. And I think it's important to know too how many students they do seek online help and online resources. And from our research, they're increasingly expecting that support. And not all educators necessarily think that is necessary. They also think that the educator can provide all of the resources that they need in in-person services. But it becomes an equity issue too. Non-traditional students are becoming the norm.
The new traditional.
They are, yeah, maybe the new traditional. And whether it's students working, whether it's students who are 26 or older, who are parents, these are meaningful percentages of the student body in college and obviously grad school in the United States. Many are first generation students. Many students just do not have the support systems, the time, the flexibility to be able to do the in-person services or teacher only provided, school only provided resources. They're looking for the help that can get them through that moment of stress and stuck, to unblock them. I think taking students down that journey to getting unstuck, to basically understanding, and then being able to practice and prepare and exercise the concepts, that journey, that's what students are wanting. And with time pressure at different moments in time, it stresses that. And how can we help as a community of students and tutors and educators to do better, and make that help more available when needed, affordably?
That's this episode's mic drop moment, Andrew. Thank you for that. Equity is a huge, important issue. It's about resource. We've seen, I know you have, financial resources, any kind of resources for students have been at an absolute premium. People are just getting absolutely crushed through coronavirus, and students are dropping out of the system. You've seen 10%, community college decline in enrollment, sometimes up to 13% across the country for colleges in general. Only the elites seem to be doing okay because a lot of them drop their testing, and so everybody wants to see if they can get into this elite university or that elite university. And so there is just this overwhelming need that has to be filled, right? And I know that Course Hero is doing some stuff to help fill that need in terms of financial support for students that you've done during coronavirus. You want to talk about that real briefly?
Yeah, we were doing some surveys just to understand what students would need, and potentially coming into those surveys to students and educators with the assumption that getting more resources or affordable resources would be helpful, but it was even more foundational, basic needs. It was 14,000+ respondents within 24 hours saying, I need help with rent, or getting home transportation wise, having access to internet, having access to a computer, having access to food, like just basic foundational security to be able to, in the first place, be able to study and learn. And that's what informed us then setting up programs to be able to get money into the hands of students through a number of really great organizations like Equity and Believe in Students. And I think it just gets to the point of, I think we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the students to understand what is their life really like. What is the day in the life? What is the month, the year in the life of a student today? And empathize and understand why do they need help? What type of help do they need, and how can we show up for them? And that's I think what is the lens of equity here, and instead of just judging and having a strict system, how do we come at it from a lens of support and help? I think that's a really powerful thing that we see at Course Hero and in our community of educators. That's what motivates them. They are there because they believe in active learning. They're innovating on so many different types of assessments. And how do they help show students show what they've learned, show what they can create, how they can problem solve, and how does that assessment connect to doing that, and even connecting to what's their life in a professional working environment going to look like. That's the type of educator versus just focused on research or a different track like that. So many educators are excited to be more supported and recognized, even celebrated for their work as a teacher and teaching. And it's exciting to see that in higher education, because I think for us at Course Hero, we see a huge resonance with that, with our community of educators, and bridging that with students is really powerful. It's messy in the details, as we've discussed, but it's really energizing to see on the ground floor.
You know what? The educational journeys are messy, so we got to have a little bit of mess along the way to come out, better on the other side. So that is a good word for how you get through an education, how you get through a class, how you approach it. If you go in knowing that it's going to be a little bit messy, then you're able to navigate through that stress a little bit better. And Andrew, everything you've said today is still right on. And I want to ask you our two final questions we ask every single guest. And while you answer them, the theme song of The Matrix is playing in your head so that we get the absolute best out of you, my friend. Here we go. You ready? Number one, what did we miss about Course Hero today that you want to talk about? Was there something that you were hoping that I would ask you that I didn't ask? Some initiative you have going on, another acquisition that you might be making that you want to announce here exclusively on the EdUp Experience? You don't have to. But if there was, what would you want to say about Course Hero that we didn't get a chance to talk about? And number two, what do you see as the future of higher education?
I guess maybe I'll connect number one and two. I think what's we saw it again in our education summit this year. So about 6,000 educators came for the summit.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think it's a powerful event because we get to see educators connecting across disciplines, across schools, and even levels. And they're there because of this belief in connecting directly to students and helping students learn, and from lots of different backgrounds. And I think what I get to see in that is not just the sharing of ideas and approaches between educators and how they can help students and then learn from students about how they can be better. But I think there's this massive trend in education towards more creators and more educators being amplified, and the best teachers and their best resources reaching as many students and educators as possible. And that's just a classic for the internet and what it can do and democratize access to the best. And I think what can't be disrupted are great teachers. And we will be able to innovate to make better and better teacher resources, and the production value can increase, the technology and the tools can get better. But at the heart of it, explanations from a great teacher in a specific discipline is going to be so much better than mine. And one explanation doesn't equal another. And so how do we discover and amplify the best teachers and their best explanations?
Well said, my friend. Well said. And thank you for coming on the EdUp Experience today. I know for sure our audience is going to get a lot out of this. Hope everybody checks out Course Hero. If you didn't know, if you work in education and you didn't know that Course Hero existed, I don't know where you have been, because they've been growing rapidly. If you read the news or you just do a search on the internet for, learning resources, Course Hero basically comes up. So I encourage you guys to check them out. What's the website, Andrew? Just so you could say it for everybody.
CourseHero.com.
If you didn't know, now you know. Go check them out. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the EdUp Experience today.
Thanks so much, Joe.
All right, your guest, Andrew Grauer, CEO and co-founder of Course Hero. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. If you're experiencing any level of marketing challenge right now, you've got to ask the hard questions and you need answers. Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your future students? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience and future students will respond to? And are you spending more time building reporting than listening in on what your students really want? All of these questions will get answered when you sign up for your free consultation with MDT Marketing. Head to mdtmarketing.com/edup. Submit your information and talk to MDT. Don't go it alone. Find the right partner. The guys at MDT, the team at MDT is absolutely amazing. Whether your challenge is the cost of inquiries, your branding, the bad and incomplete information that come with your inquiries, whatever it is, an audit of your challenges will help your institution, and it's free. mdtmarketing.com/edup.